Joining us now is CEO of Publius PR and author of the White Privileged album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides, AJ Rice. AJ, thank you so much for joining us. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele met with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office today to discuss how the two countries could coordinate on reducing violent crime in the US. And President Bukele confirmed that he has no intention of sending deported MS-13 gang member Kilmer Albrego Garcia back to America. Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to be suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right? How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
It's a good point. The US can't free criminals and think that crime is just going to go down magically. What did you make of the exchange between the president and the left-wing media?
Well, it's amazing. Great to be here, Gab. It's an amazing thing when you're looking at the media and you're listening to them and you listen to some of Hollywood, some of academia here in the United States. They want all criminals, whether they've come here the first time and deported, second time and been deported, they want them all brought back. They see future voters, some might say current voters. And I think Bukele handled himself, fantastic. The left is not quite sure here in the United States what to do with some of these populist Latin leaders, like in Argentina and El Salvador. They're used to the types of leaders like the Castro boys, right? Like Hugo Chavez, like Daniel Ortega, right? Like Evo Morales, these left-wing Marxists that remind them of their romantic days when they were in journalism school.
It's interesting. The left-wing media are right now freaking out because comedian Bill Maher has opened up about his White House dinner with President Donald Trump, and it wasn't all that bad. During a segment on Real Time with Bill Maher, he described the president as gracious and measured. Take a listen.
He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy.
Now, the left have just gone into meltdown over these comments. A former MSNBC host has lashed out saying that this is just so Bill Maher can keep his own show. And he said that Bill Maher was prostituting himself to Donald Trump. I want to get your thoughts firstly on what Bill Maher had to say. He's obviously been a pretty harsh critic of Donald Trump in the past, but also how the left-wing media has just been in meltdown over it.
Well, sure. So Keith Olbermann there, for your audience, he's a washed-up hack from both ESPN and MSNBC, which is the far-left network here in the United States. Here's the thing. The Democrats don't want any of their people, be it an actor, be it a politician, or even a traditional comedian or late-night host, to escape the intellectual plantation. They cannot allow it. In this last election, in this last election cycle, some of their biggest names, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, escaped. So they have to crack the whip on people like John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, Bill Maher, who you just played, Stephen A. Smith, who's one of the most famous African-American sports analysts here in the United States. They cannot allow this independent, sometimes moderate, sometimes left of center, sometimes right of center thinking to continue. So they're going to get hammered. They're going to get hammered if they try doing this.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, while we're talking about the media is right now fawning over this all-female flight to space on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket. There was pop star Katy Perry. She was joined by Gayle King and Jeff Bezos' fiance, Lauren Sanchez. And the flight went off from Texas and it lasted about 10 minutes before it, of course, returned to Earth. And this is what Katy Perry had to say.
Katie!
I feel super connected to love. so connected to love. I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give.
AJ kissing the ground after 10 minutes up in space. I mean, what do you make of this?
What does Australia think of the first episode of Feminists in Space? Well, I mean, Gab, why weren't you on this? You would look good in one of those blue jumpsuits.
Thank you.
Get rid of the red dress. You get the blue jumpsuit. Feminists in Space. I can see it. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. I mean, look, what I find sort of appalling is that the media was pretending like Christopher Columbus had been reincarnated as a bunch of left-wing females. You know, God bless Lauren Sanchez. She was at the inauguration here. She looked great. She had everybody. She was a showstopper. And, you know, it's Bezos' fiance. So, you know, put her on the flight. Fine. But what I find crazy is that the media, although they covered this breathlessly today here in the United States, they couldn't find any time to thank Elon Musk for actually going into space, docking, rescuing astronauts that Biden had left behind, and bringing them back safely to Earth.
No, of course not. That's just not part of the narrative. But look, we were speaking about the Democrats before. It's wild how desperate they are getting at the moment. Bernie Sanders has taken it upon himself to rant about Donald Trump. Well, that's not new, but in front of a bunch of party goers at Coachella. This is, of course, part of the Democrats' 2028 playbook, is to just put some crazy TDS into some people who are likely out of their mind partying at Coachella. But this is Bernie Sanders.
We need you to stand up to fight for justice. To fight for economic justice, social justice, and racial justice. Now, we got a president of the United States who... I agree. He thinks that climate change is a hoax. He is dangerously wrong.
I mean, is this what's going to turn it around for the Democrats, speaking to partygoers at Coachella?
Well, look, he's the 83-year-old leader of the youth movement. Can't you tell? He's only that was Larry David, by the way. No, it wasn't. I mean, he's only slightly more spry than Joe Biden was. I mean, the synapses are firing a little bit better. But even poor Bernie versus when he was running against Hillary, you know, what was that, 50 years ago now, when he was only 112, you know, he has lost a little bit of speed off of that brain power. You can sort of tell he's up there with his cue cards. And he's talking to a group of people that, you know, he couldn't get to vote for him in a primary twice, and they certainly didn't show up for Kamala Harris. So I don't know who's in that audience. Most people there probably just wanted to hear some great music, and instead they got an old Marxist ranting at them.
Yeah, I don't think they forked out all that money and turned up at Coachella hoping to hear Bernie Sanders. But unfortunately for them, that's what they got. You mentioned Stephen A. Smith before. He says that he's considering a run for president in 2028. Speaking on the ABC's This Week, he criticised the Democrats for focusing on woke culture and cancel culture during the 2024 campaign.
So are you really thinking about running for president? Is this something you think?
Listen, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I just signed a contract extension with ESPN. I am very, very
pretty
happy.
Good.
I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
AJ, what are your thoughts on this one? He's certainly right about the Democratic Party just not having a leader or a vision at the moment.
Well, you know, unlike other parts of the Commonwealth, the former Commonwealth states, in the United States, we really only have two parties. And isn't it amazing? It's just an amazing thing that the Democrat Party, the party of Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson, the party of Franklin Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy, has fallen into such ill repute that one of their most sane, popular voices that could possibly run for president, and God love, I mean, look, I write about Stephen A. Smith in this book. He is a voice of sanity, not just on sports, but on life. So if you got guys like him and Bill Maher and Senator Fetterman, who needs like a speaking spell in order to do a debate with Dr. Oz, God bless them, that this is the best they have, they're in deep trouble.
Absolutely.
They're in deep, deep trouble.
They certainly are. Look, I want to get your thoughts on Doge. We just keep learning more and more about the waste and abuse and fraud. And last week, Doge revealed or claimed that millions of dollars in unemployment claims have gone to fake people who aren't even born yet. They brought out the receipts, as they always do, and there was one case where a person whose birthday was listed in the year 2154 received $40,000. I mean, we keep learning about these insane Doge findings, and it's still so shocking.
Sure. I mean, look, here's the thing, and a lot of sort of conservative analysts here in the United States don't say what I'm about to say, is that, first of all, this is a grift. Yes, this is a money laundering operation that the left was using through big government to funnel to their nonprofits to then donate back to politicians. But the Democrat Party wasn't the only party in power for the last 40 years, and certainly not the only party in power on Capitol Hill. Plenty of Republicans elected for decades have been sitting up there on Capitol Hill collecting their belly button lint while this gigantic money laundering operation was going on, and they really didn't care. There's been a few people over the years, like names that you wouldn't know, like Tom Coburn and obviously Ron Paul and others. But the fact that they've all sort of looked the other way tells me that they're all complicit in this.
Look, finally, I want to ask you about Easter that is approaching. The White House is gearing up for an extraordinary celebration for Holy Week ahead of Easter, and Donald Trump will be participating in several events to celebrate and honour the holiday with the observance that it deserves. But remember that this comes after the Biden White House declared Easter last year Transgender Day of Visibility. I mean, it's so important that we are reminded about what our life was like 1 year ago and how different it is now that we have Trump back in the White House.
Yes, that's right. It was they wouldn't celebrate cisgender Jesus in the Biden White House. Now, here's the thing. Trump has gotten more religious since the assassination attempts. When he was running in 2015, people would ask me, can we, and they said this about Reagan too, because Reagan was married twice and Trump's been married 3 times. That he's not, that he has a certain style. He's from Queens. Why do evangelicals and other Catholics and Orthodox Jewish voters like him? And the reality is this: he is the bodyguard, at least at this point, Netanyahu might be as well, of Western civilization. So Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian civilization, which includes Australia. And look, not all civilizations are created equal. I know that's not always politically correct, but, Western civilization is something that we should hold on to. So that's, I think, and look, Melania's Catholic. I think that they have, understood the mortality since the assassination attempts. And I think that's why you're getting a sea change here. Because Trump, whether he's fighting DEI or whether he's pushing back against Iran, or Hamas, he is in the fight for Western civilization.
Yes.
And I think that's a great thing. Yes.
Absolutely. AJ Rice, CEO of Publius PR and author of the White Privilege album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.